Hey y'all, I'm Allison Asarch from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids.
Hunters, this is Johnny from Rail Motor.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season.
Hey, it's Rob Stanier, and you can check out my music on all the streaming platforms.
Check out my latest music on all the streaming sites.
Check out my debut album on all streaming platforms.
Check out our new debut album.
Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And you're listening to our friends, Braggy and Curly.
And my favorite bands from Australia.
My two favourite podcasters,
Braggy and Curly.
Braggy and Curly.
On the
Unfiltered and Undiscovered Podcast.
And Rossi.
Let's get started, shall we? Hey there, everyone. It's Curly here. Welcome to episode 169 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered Podcast. We've been pretty missing in action, I guess would be a great term for it. We've sort of missed a couple of weeks. The last episode was where Rossi and I shared stories around Nashville, and before that...
Have you been to Nashville, Curly?
I have been to Nashville. Rossi, have you been to Nashville?
I've been to Nashville, yeah, I have.
We won't ask Braggy. So how are you, boys? I've got Braggy down there in Adelaide, and I've got Rossi in Sydney. How are you?
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Excellent. I'm gearing up. I know we always talk a little sport before we get into introducing our guest, but I'm going to the test match for the first 3 days tomorrow, boys. So I've got my
lovely day out. Adelaide Oval will be lovely.
Good friend and band member Annie Railmotor, or better known as Cat. She's arriving, and the both of us are going to cricket for 3 days. It's going to be fun, and because it's a day night, it means when it finishes like 10:30, we get to just walk into the city and check out a couple of bands. So,
cool.
Hopefully we'll do that. I can report back.
Yeah, and it's good that you've committed to 3 days because it might be all over and done with by then.
Yeah. Well, the third day is still optional. Anyway.
Absolutely.
I play in Perth and Western Australia for that, but that's just me.
Yeah. Hey, some good news, Rossi, in relation to our good friends Mick and Ursula and their latest single, Punk Grandma. It's just going crazy everywhere.
It is incredible. Put out on the fabulous I-94 bar label, home to such luminaries as Chris Mazwak, Jupiter 5 and the Psychotic Turnbuckles. And it's a fantastic label. It's a fantastic record.
Is that Ursula that came up with that name?
I reckon I put money on it.
It was, it's cool.
There's another song on it called Yoko, and I think you can understand why.
Okay, that's cool.
They're
just so lovely, though, those two.
They are. It's hilarious.
I saw that they're actually number one with an independent radio station in the US.
Yeah, and Victoria. It's exceeded expectations, I think. And, they're coming down to the capital city to play early next year, actually.
Are they going to Sydney, are they?
Yeah, they are.
The capital. And speaking of capitals, our guest tonight, Adele Oliver, lives as far away from the capital, I guess, in the beautiful region of the Kimberleys, in WA. So welcome to the show, Adele.
Hello, thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
It's amazing. Up in the Kimberley. What a place. If you're going to write country music, I mean, that's got to be one of the places to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, I definitely reckon. I think someone asked about the genre and how I ended up in it, and I sort of said that it wasn't ever a thing I set out to do. It just was the music that naturally I started writing to this environment, because I feel it is definitely a country folk, kind of song, this Kimberley.
Is it where you grew up, or you moved there?
I lived here since I was about 7, but I was born down south on a farm in the wheat belt of WA, so I got best of both worlds, both quite, country, but Broome was the most part, and I've spent time in other areas in the Kimberley, like lived in the central Kimberley and Fitzroy Crossing for a few years, so Kimberley's been home for a while now.
Well, Adele, tell us how. I usually like to start with finding out how the music came into your life. The first time you realised, oh my God, it's a thing and I love it and that's what I want to do. When did that happen?
I think I always loved singing, and Mum and Dad tell stories about how as a kid me and my sister would be harmonising in the back seat and I was generally singing. But I think probably the time when I really realised music and songwriting was really something I loved was when I was living in Fitzroy Crossing, and that was probably, I think I was 23 when I moved there. So I did love music, and I played music in different forms and wrote songs, but that was probably one of my pivotal moments of realizing how powerful songwriting can be when you're writing about the place that you're in and the place that you love, and how you can really carry those stories, and how important those stories can be to, like one of the most pivotal bands for the Kimberleys is a band called Fitzroy Express, and they've written music just about living in Fitzroy Crossing and about the Kimberley, and those songs, like 20 years, are still around and still being played by young kids and still absolutely being loved. And I just think that's an incredible mark of history, like songwriting and creating songs like that.
Are the Pegram brothers from that? Are they that far north? Is that where they're from too? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a family connection to them. So
do you?
My sister's with Michael Pegram, which is Stephen's son. So we have lots to do with them, and I've loved their music since I was a kid. That was the soundtrack to Broome. So as a Broome kid, you grow up, and the family type events and the community events were Pegram Brothers and Fitzroy Express and these incredible Kimberley bands. And then I've been lucky enough to have Stephen on stage at the last gig I played and get to jam with him by the fire. So pretty good. Because
I associate that part of Australia. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because we've got the whole East Coast that's tropical. And there's all those surf beaches and all those kind of surfy sort of bands, Rossi, up the East Coast. And then up where in the Kimberley, it's kind of country, but still there's that tropical, it's slow, kind of almost bluesy sort of, I don't know what you call it. The waves. I think that's what I love. I guess that's what I was really thinking about this, would say with regards to the Pegram Brothers or some of these Kimberley bands. I feel like they've created this unique sound that does fit all the different elements of Broome, because it's saltwater is a big part of Broome, so it's very ocean, but then you don't go too far until you're hitting Spinifex Hills and desert country, and there's a lot of pastoral leases in the Kimberley as well, so that aspect of country is pretty big, and historically Stockmans, and so I think that is really cool how they blended all those sounds and created this uniquely sound. They call it saltwater country, So I think it's pretty cool. It would have that Indigenous sort of influence as well, I'm assuming, up there as well. Oh, yeah, incredible. There's so many incredible Aboriginal bands that are writing, creating their own music and their own sound. There's some guys from down just out of Broome, the Shoveler family band. They are incredible, and their sound is then uniquely to that area, which is it's ocean, but then it's it borders another sort of desert area, and so that's like this it's almost got reggae aspects to it, but then it's so cool. I just love the way that Kimberley bands create these unique sounds.
Very much so. So let's talk a little bit about Angel then. What's because personally I love the song. It's a little bit haunting, and there's a couple of great lyrics in there, Braggy. Did you pick up on them? Well, I just think it's interesting that this is my take on what I think is like. Not everyone knows, especially you three guys. You've been married for a long time. If you're going to be in a relationship, it takes a lot of freaking tolerance and forgiveness, and And most love songs and things written like that are written about, it's just perfect and stuff. And I guess this is just showing you that no one's perfect. That's my take. That was my take on it. Is that kind of what you're trying to get at, Adele? Yeah, I think you've nailed that. I suppose it's not a love song in that sense, because kind of like I'm kind of angry at that stage, but it's a relationship song, and I was in love. I was still in love with the person when I wrote it, so I guess it is a love song. But it was that frustration around feeling like this person was holding me to a standard that he wasn't holding himself to, and getting hung up on things in the past when I didn't really care. Like, I couldn't care less who's in your past. It doesn't faze me, and I don't let that ruin the present. But it was really starting to ruin this relationship, and so I just penned this song out and got all of my feelings out on the page. And I guess I was listening to a bit of Dolly Parton at the time, and there was a song of hers, My Mistakes Are No Worse Than Yours Because I'm a Woman. And I think that might have been where this angel concept came from for me.
around this idea of looking for the perfect woman. But I definitely had to get all of my emotions out in that way as well. And I recently read an article in a book about Dolly's songs where she talked about her inspiration. I didn't realise, but it was quite similar. Her husband was hung up on the fact that she'd been with another man before they were married. And I didn't realise that until this year. And I was like, wow, so kind of written two very similar songs. I think she's great. But it was cool to know that when I listened to her song, I was realising that this issue it wasn't unique to me. You know, it's something that has happened through the ages. And if it can happen to someone as incredible as Dolly Parton, you know, no one's safe from these kind of jealousy and double standards.
What a point.
I've been here before, felt the shame and remorse. I played along till I realized it's not my fight. It's a symptom of your pain. I see the scars through a facade. I won't be made to hate myself again. If you're looking for an angel, you had better change your ways. You're a little far from heaven and it's crowded at that gate. Chasing these fantasies, you'll end up tired and alone. Or find your way next to someone you won't ever truly know. And the one that you let go of won't come home.
Universal truths. You know?
Yeah, universal truths. I think that was the thing. So feeling like it was a universal truth. And I felt so powerful. I still do when I sing the song because of, I guess, what it meant to me when I wrote it. But now it still is such a powerful song for me to sing as well, because I guess I get to say exactly how I felt that I'm heard. It's kind of, it's really cathartic.
Yeah.
Well, we've had discussions with other songwriters about that sort of stuff, and the song they wrote is really raw when they first write it, but as it takes on a life of its own, its meaning kind of mutates and grows and evolves into something else. But yeah, whilst as a songwriter, it's still very raw and personal to you. It's also, you can't feel those emotions that raw every time you perform it. So the song's taken on it becomes a story that you've told, you know?
Yeah, and it does change. I do think too, because probably when I first wrote it, I would have been in an anguish or like a real solid turmoil, but then now I just get to feel this power because it's a ballad to sing, and I feel happy. And I guess also part of me is like, I got the last word on that. So
microphone is power.
That's the rule. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you will always have the last word,
that's right.
because the song's going to have a life of its own. So, hey, well arranged. The production's really cool too. It just comes across your vocals. You talk about powerful, and you see the full range of your vocals. And personally, I love them. But tell us about the recording of the song and how that. Who did you work with, and how much did it come out the way you wanted it or foresaw it?
Well, I guess the thing for when I do head into the studio, because I play most of the time, I'm playing solo or duo in Broome. It's just the way the gigs kind of line up. I don't tend to hear much for what I see the song coming out as in the studio. I kind of just, that's the way the songs are and that's how I know them. And I kind of reserve that imagining for when you get to the studio to know who's around, and I suppose work on all of the strengths of everyone there. And so I was really, really happy with the people I chose to be in my team on this song, because I feel like they got it to the point where I never imagined it, but I kind of, if I had imagined it, it would have been this. You know what I mean? Like it got to the point where I felt was really true to the song. I worked with James Newhouse, who is well known. Yeah, he's definitely worked.
You know, sorry, buddy, but this one thing. Well, I listened to him, before I actually read your bio. I just listened to it, and the thing that struck me is that, like, that Angel comes in with that guitar. I thought, wow, that guitar is so well recorded. And then when I read it was James Newhouse, and he did the waves, and it sounds like, what's his name, Cunningham's, Josh's guitar. It's got that. I don't know how it's recorded. Rossi, did you listen? Did you hear that? It's compared to your earlier stuff, that the way the acoustic's recorded.
Oh yeah, and that wasn't my acoustic, I don't think. I think it was one of his Gibsons. Yeah, because you always take your guitar into the studio and you have it there. And I think my guitar is pretty good, but he's got this Gibson, J
200 or something.
Yeah, incredible. And we compared the two, and that one won by far.
Yeah, full-bodied sound, wasn't it? I must have.
And his way of record. I think the drums now, I've heard more and more of James's work. I feel like the way he captures that drum sound is also quite uniquely James as well.
I've always felt with producers that a producer has a sound.
Yes.
And you listen to the sound of that, and because I listen to records sonically, I don't always listen to the music. I listen to the sonic nature of the song sometimes, and sometimes you listen to a record, and I just find that there might be, I listen to 3 or 4 records, and then all of a sudden the commonality is the guy behind the desk has made the difference, But without the songs, you got nothing.
That's right.
And
they're all your own. No collaborations at all, Adele.
No, there's been tiny collaborations. So I think when I went into the studio for this one and Wiley Blue, there was maybe like a reframing of a line or a phrasing and things like that. And that was the other 2 guys I took into the studio, Elwood and Albert Gray. They're brothers from Broome. Incredible songwriters as well. So I think maybe for Angel, we changed like a last line. It was something else and we shortened it to "You Won't Come Home," and it left it unresolved. And so little bits of sort of after the song was finished, the boys worked with me on just firming them up, but they were all written by me.
How do you find that when someone says, I think it should go like that? Do you fight back? Or?
No, I don't, because in my head, I sort of see, well, I've gotten the song to this point, and this was obviously as good as I could get it to. And then I have so much trust in those guys and what they would suggest that I kind of go, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't think of that. And if you thought of that, then I trust that you have that great idea. And I will always, if it doesn't fit or if it doesn't feel right, I'll just be happy to say, no, it doesn't fit. But usually they'll suggest something that I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I just trust. I trust in who they've learned from as well. Like, say, Elwood, for example, studied Pat Patterson a lot. Have you heard of him?
No, I don't know Pat Patterson.
He's an incredible, he teaches at the Berklee College of Music in America and has had people like Gillian Welsh forward his...
I love Gillian Welsh.
So, so I think about, and I'm sort of working through some of his songwriting, one of his books now. And so I know that where these boys have gotten their ideas and who they've learned from is solid. So when they suggest things, I'm like, oh yeah, you're
good. Yeah, because like I write songs in the band that one of the bands that I'm in, and I have people in my band, people like Rob Stenier, who are very blunt. That is shit, Braggy. It's got to change, okay? So that's good.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
good.
the boys say it in they won't ever come in and say, this is what you need. It'll just be like, this could also work, and it's such a gentle. So I think it's a good working relationship.
You say you do a lot of duo and solo work, but I also noticed that you said you've been doing some work with your Red Rock Rodeo band. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have recently decided that's what my live band is called. There was, I think it was last year or a couple of years ago, I had this brilliant idea. I went to one of the rodeos in Derby, and there was like an all rock band playing like Blink-182, and I was like, this isn't right, where's Brooks and Dunn? Like, I'm going to start a country covers band and play at the rodeos. So I had this great idea, formed this band, and I come up with the name Red Rock Rodeo Band with a friend of mine, paying homage to Lane Frost and one of the most famous rodeo bulls. And so we got into jamming, and it took us like all year based off of everyone's schedules to get maybe 10 songs together, which was never enough for a full gig. So we only played one gig, and then didn't play a rodeo. And so then when it came time to pull my band together for live shows for these new songs, I was like, right, well, Red Rock Rodeo Band could be a great name for the band. And I love when artists have their solo project, and then they have the band name, say Jason Isbell and the 400 unit, how, you have these separate names that can mark the different music. So it felt natural, and I really liked it. It was a fun idea, and it was the same people from the original Red Rock Rodeo band.
Which brings us to that song, the other song off this new EP. I don't know how many songs are going to be on it. I don't know if you're going to tell us that, but
I could tell.
Wiley Blue, which was an interesting song. It's about a bull, but it's the most delicate song about a bull that I've ever heard. I reckon.
I know. I think I made this little statement a while back. I was like, oh, could it be the rodeo anthem of 2024? But it wouldn't be, because it's definitely not a song you would probably hear play at a rodeo. It's not nowhere near enough punch to it.
It's a good angle, though.
It is. I figured, there's got to be enough people singing from the perspective of being in love with that bull rider, because we know that, there's the reputation, I suppose, of bull riders and stealing hearts. So there's got to be enough girls out there that would relate to the song, or boys. And I suppose too, I just wanted to write that perspective of anyone watching from the sidelines that has a whole amount of respect for the person in the arena and what that means going beyond just a sport. I guess in the Kimberley we have, we've got generations of people in the world of stockmans in the family, and rodeo can run in families, not just here but in Australia. So there's a bit of a nod to that as well.
Everybody wants to be a cowboy, just to look as effortless as you. One chance to get it right, gone in the blink of an eye. But you don't need the clock to prove you rode that Wiley Blue.
I'm actually fascinated when you were talking about, Braggy asked about collaboration. The first thought that popped into my head was it's a long way to travel to collaborate, I'm guessing. So, but I'm fascinated by that environment, the Kimberleys, even the wheat belts of WA, and just how inspirational, I guess, the music must be for you in that environment, because being in the city and being a punter from the old days with the different bands every night, you'd get inspired by this band, that band, whatever band. There's always so much being thrown at you. But I guess in that sort of an environment, it's a really, I don't want to use the word delicate, but it's a precious space, isn't it? And inspiration is not necessarily music being thrown at you. It's music that almost, I've got a sense that it wafts by and you sort of pick up the scent of it. Am I capturing that in it?
That does make sense. And I feel that because I definitely have these moments when I come to a city or go to a festival, and I remember what I loved about being in the city when I was younger, of going to bands and feeling so inspired by the professionalism of the bands on stage. And, but then generally living in a city for me is so uninspiring that other than going to a gig, I would never be so inspired. But then in Broome, it is sometimes the opposite. I do get the chance to be really inspired by a handful of bands, but it's not as frequent, it's very few and far between. So I find it is the landscape, it's the stories, it's histories and the uniqueness of those stories that is inspiring, and it does kind of waft through. Every time I hit the road, I don't know what it is, but driving on a highway with no sort of towns is so inspiring to me. Just the songs tend to open up, and so I think that must be part of what's special about the Kimberley, kind of driving with nothing to distract you.
Right, so that's when your ideas mostly come, when you're out there driving. Because
I was
going to ask, do you take the guitar out into the bush and,
Oh, sometimes actually. It can get a bit sketchy because usually I'll just be driving and it's a highway and I'm like, get this idea rushed to me. And so I'm like, fumbling for some way to record it into my phone without hitting a bull. So that can be hard. Sometimes it's a pull over and really, have a little stop and get it out. But other times I've spent And I did this recently, just went and sat under a tree, like just had to go. I need to take myself away from town. And as soon as I am out of town and as soon as I'm sitting somewhere in nature or by the ocean or usually by a river is really inspiring to me for some reason, fresh water. And that helps a lot. It just kind of unclogs the brain.
We've heard that before from a lot of people who live in more remote areas, is that driving time is key, that you can, the sounds of the road and the rhythms. And, I guess in the old days, it used to come the sound of the trains for a lot of people in the south of America. It's the sound of the road, the sound of travel. But there's a certain sort of, it's almost a meditation you lock into. You hear these sounds repeating over and over again. But for me, that was always like my own private hell. Was going, when are we stopping? Why are we still going?
I guess like Curly you talk about all the bands that you get inspired by, but I guess it brings uniqueness too if you're kind of isolated. Although not so much in 2024 when Spotify's just at your right.
Well, we have got that, but there's still nothing like seeing a band live for the first time that you haven't heard and having that sound completely just, and it's been amazing. I guess the other thing with it, having a smaller population maybe of artists, there's not a lot of people doing the same genre necessarily in Broome. Lots of people in the Kimberley have different genres. So I suppose for me to go like, I want to go and listen to a live artist playing country music, there's a handful, and there is a beautiful country music night that's hosted at in Broome at Galari Media. But that's probably it for a country dedicated night. So I don't get often that chance to go, I'm going to go and listen to this particular genre and the artist that I might normally be inspired by. So I suppose, so that can be why.
But I guess it's the same thing as like what you have with like prior to the internet, of course, but like Australia or countries like Japan, that bands would play and you wouldn't see people. So you would have an idealized image of what the performance would be like, and you have your own, so you build to your own standards. And sometimes the standards that people come up with on their own far surpass the quality of what comes in from outside, I've got to say. It's my experience too,
Prior to the internet, who remembers that, Rossi?
Yeah. I do remember the internet. Whenever I hear the sound of a modem, it makes my blood runs cold.
Or a fax machine.
But Rossi, also that whole concept of mid 80s inner city rock could almost be confusing in some respects because there's too much influence. There's you go see a band wearing the paisley shirts one night playing the jingle jangle, and then the next night they might go see a band with a leather jacket playing hard and fast. And I mean, and potentially some members in that band were also in the power pop band, and so
they'd be a little confused.
Yeah, so that beauty of sitting under a tree and crafting out some music is just, I don't know about you, Braggy, but that's a visual in my head that just that's pure.
And that's how sounds like Adele talked about. That's how sounds of genres are born from everybody just being in that isolated in that one place, and they're all
very much so. But it sounds like it's far unbeknownst to us ignorant folks in the larger states. It sounds like it's a fairly thriving environment there, to be honest.
Well, I guess while maybe there's not so many artists pursuing exactly country in Broome, I feel I do need to take a moment to nod that our amount of talented people in such a small remote area is pretty incredible, and there's people committed to bringing original music to the forefront in Broome, which hadn't happened for a little while. So I'm grateful in that. I have a good friend that's just gone, well, we need original music nights back in Broome, and just put that on at one of the pubs. And so I did start to get chances to feel inspired by my cohort of artists in Broome through those nights. And I suppose the other time I have gotten to be super inspired with Kimberley music was when I was living in Fitzroy Crossing, and the uniqueness of the music of community bands and the talent of people who maybe had never been formally trained, and some people had been actually gone and studied down in Perth and studied at the music schools. But the way that people would just learn instruments so naturally and just swap between instruments, that was probably another time where I got to be super inspired by unique music. Yeah.
Tell us about your genre. It's called, like we see in Jules' notes that she sends through, that you're alt country, and we're not necessarily country aficionados, although I must say we're starting to get a real taste for a lot of the new artists that are coming through. But what's alt country? What is that?
I guess the alt country part is the Australian's equivalent to Americana. Have you heard or delved into much Americana? It's sort of like that area of country that sort of doesn't quite tap into the exact, maybe that typical country sound. It maybe has other flavors. It's a bit more maybe indie aspects to it, and perhaps it just.
So Americana to me is like Tom Petty and that from my era. Would you say that, Rossi?
Could be. Yeah, but there's a certain craftsmanship in that Americana stuff that I've listened to. There's a real craftsman nature to it, like songsmiths and guitar instrumentation and stuff like that,
And lyrical, I guess, too, because I think John Prine would fit into Americana as a genre. I guess he's also quite folk in a lot of aspects.
Great
lyricist.
And that's where it gets tricky, though, because I do have struggled before in stating a genre, because even when I look at my songs, each of them kind of do something a bit different. Like Wiley Blue is maybe just typically country. Like it's probably just it's more of a country sound, but then Angel is something a little bit, it has elements to it, and then it's sort of, that's why I would label things to be alt country, because it kind of feels to be more on the alternative, just on the outskirts of it, I suppose.
I thought Wiley Bloom had a very strong country full sound to it, actually, as I was listening.
You reckon?
So I kind of really dug that, actually.
Yeah, okay. That's so, I'm always interested to hear when people hear something different, because it is up to what the individual does listen to and what they are familiar with in the genre. So I
think the two new ones have definitely got that waifs tone because of
the word I was like, a bit more delicate.
Yeah.
Spatial.
Yes, So we are learning about country music, fellas. We're learning.
But if you go back in your back catalogue, we go back to "Don't Take My Blues Away." I mean, that's just a blues song.
That's a blues song. Yeah, that was.
That is just in the genre of I'm so damn freaking blue. You can't get me. It's like what's that song by Albert King? Born Under a Bad Sign. The only luck I get is when I have bad luck.
If it wasn't bad luck,
Let's so low, Adele. That one was so low in that. What happened?
Exactly. Well, I guess too, like I was listening to more blues probably at that time, but I also didn't really think about a genre specifically. I always used to say folk until I went into the studio to do that first EP and sat down with the producer, Pete Granison, and I was like, I don't know, I'm acoustic and folk, I suppose. And he was like, well, these sound like kind of old country songs. I think we should add these instruments. And that was how that came about. So I think I accidentally kind of wrote myself into the genre of, country, old country.
Yeah, the titles don't matter as long as it's a good song.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think too, genres can be limiting, I suppose, too, because you might end up boxing people down a certain path. And I still, even though I've written these songs and I'm really proud to say that I'm, country, old country genre, I don't know that the next songs I write will be. I'm not going to, I'm going to write those songs and then decide where they want to go and where they sit. And I don't know if that is a good or a bad thing. I suppose it's just about, going with the flow with the music.
I like getting hit with the garage label because it means you can play anything.
Might go punk next.
Yeah. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
Even wrong notes, and it doesn't matter. That's how it's supposed to go.
Well, punk country is a great genre. The old Johnnies owned that, didn't they?
Or Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper.
Yeah. And even when Dwight Yoakam came out,
Dwight.
That was just blowing country into a whole new world of of
Well, that's
listeners.
just boogie, isn't it? That's just boogie.
Yeah.
Where I ended up at a lot of that sort of country, especially Dwight Yoakam's through Mazwak. He played. Mazwak does great covers, all that Dwight Yoakam stuff, like guitars.
Oh, wow.
And he nails that. He actually had a band called Chris Boy King and the Kamloops Swing. And if you ever look for the records around, they did a few albums of country, and it was great fun.
Yeah, I love that boogie stuff. Kentucky Headhunters and those things.
Yeah.
That's my guilty pleasure. I put them on.
But it's all guitar stuff, a lot of that outlaw country's guitar stuff too.
Oh yeah, I do love a good outlaw country as well. I think and Appalachian music too. That folk sound of I love going down the sort of rabbit hole of the. And then I did go down the rabbit hole too of like how did all the folk instruments end up in America and make that unique sound.
So I'm going to change tack a little bit and move away from music, if that's okay, because your dad was a truck driver. And I don't want to say that that's a bit of a cliche, but we have talked to artists before whose dad was a truck driver. But Speedway, racing cars.
That's pretty. That's a talking point that a few people have really enjoyed. So I'm glad I put that in. Got Jules to pop that in. I was a moody teenager when it came to Speedway, so like begrudgingly going to the track and sort of holding the spanner for Dad. But as I come to be an adult, I've gotten a lot more appreciation for that world, and actually now I'll voluntarily go and actually spend the Saturday night at the Speedway with Dad. And I don't know, I think it's for me the smell of the unburnt fuel.
I know the smell.
Yeah, it's the smell, and then the sound of the engines. I was thinking about it the last time I went. It's that meditative like hum, like it's almost like going to a really live gig and it sort of hits you.
Oh, we need a Speedway song, Adele, from you. We need a Speedway song.
I've got that in the works. It's on my little songwriting ideas board. Definitely want to do a Speedway song, and it's going to have a twist. Like it's going to have some kind of. I've thought about these twists, but also back to the truck driving thing. Dad being a truck driver and Mum being a nurse, meeting in Derby and the Kimberley in the 80s, I feel like is an epic.
Stories there. Yeah,
there's a couple.
So what sort of car was your dad? What sort of cars did your dad drive?
So he started off with street stock back in the 80s in Derby. He was building street stock cars, and then he went to modifieds, and then he went to these mod lights, which are kind of like, they look like a sprint car, but they've got a motorbike engine in them. Yeah. And so they're pretty fun to watch. They can go pretty quick. And then my brother had a super sedan, which are kind of like the big ones, like the American cars with the big tires and the big engines. So we've had a few. We've gone across almost all of them. My brother was a junior, so between them, they've gone through most of the different classes that you can. And Dad built them all from scratch, welding.
Pretty expensive hobby, though.
And always cars, never the bikes, never the solos.
Never the solos. Dad was a motocross man when he was a teenager, but solo bikes, I think he just knows from being a motocross man. They're truly mad.
Dangerous,
bikes. Yeah.
And you never drove one?
Oh no, we tried. Me and my sister would be like, "Can we have a go?" And he'd be like, "Yep, you can have a go as long as you are at the Speedway track every Saturday." There had to be commitment to get to drive. Okay. So I used to sit in the driver's seat and pump the brakes, bleed the brakes while he would be. That's the closest I got.
But if you're traveling on your own, you can get yourself out of trouble, no doubt.
Oh, I think I always have this thought, like, I reckon I would have been all right at Speedway. And sometimes I think I wish you could just have one night where there's like no pedestrians and no cars on the street and you could test your skills. Because I reckon I could have picked up a couple of ideas of how to drive. I could have been good.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Adele, what's up next? What's in the pipeline for you for next year?
Next year, hitting the road, probably just driving to the speed limit. I'm going to head down south, and then fly across to the East Coast and check out Tamworth. So I'm pretty excited. I stop off in Melbourne and back to WA.
One of my colleagues is actually heading up to Nashville. Apparently he plays up there every year in a breakfast band.
In a breakfast band?
To Nashville or Tamworth?
The Nashville of Australia, Tamworth.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes up to Tamworth every year and plays in a breakfast band. He's leaving in a couple of weeks. apparently.
Okay.
And so where's the breakfast band play? I have to check it out.
I'll ask him. He's been doing it every year. And they just do it's just a drummer.
So what's the
Boys, maybe
drive
one
like?
year we should.
Yeah. So what's the drive? How long is the drive from where you are to Tamworth?
Oh, so I'm going to drive from Broome to Perth, which is 24
We'll
hours
fly.
non-stop. So that's a 2-day adventure. And then it would be 4 days if we went down and across, but I don't really want to tackle that, so I'm going to fly. Yeah.
You're going to fly.
It's tight. I get tired enough flying to Perth.
I know. I think the same. And I was thinking too, like
big country,
starting off like 10 days or whatever, how long I am in Tamworth and playing shows on the way up. Starting that off with 6 days of driving maybe isn't the
Gotta be
best.
fresh when you hit the ground to be your best.
So I'm hoping to be as fresh as I can. But yeah, I'm super excited to be on the road. It's the first kind of big tour I've done. I've done a little mini Kimberley tour before and played gigs down south, but I've just decided to go 0 to 100 and be like, I'm on the road for 4 months.
Okay.
Do it.
So see how I go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then any new songs? So once Tamworth's out of the way, Tamworth, it's a great opportunity for you. You've never been, correct?
Yeah.
So it'll be a great opportunity just to get out there and feel the vibe and meet people and network and do all of that. If you do end up getting a sneak entry onto the red carpet, the only thing we ask is that you say, and you're being interviewed, you say, shout out to the boys, because we're going to be watching all the artists that we've spoken to. And
we've asked everybody.
We've asked everyone.
We don't even need to mention by name. Just shout out to the boys. We'll know.
Shout out to the boys.
We'll know it's us.
And we'll know, right?
We'll know.
Boys, I was going to say maybe one year with 3 of us should go. Maybe we could do the equivalent of like interview busking just on the sidewalk. Just
We could do Tamworth, unfiltered and undiscovered Tamworth would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're one of the other podcasts I had a chat to. I forget the name. Oh, that's not good. But they go to Tamworth and set up and interview artists and everyone. I think it was.
Oh, wow.
They're probably not as nice as us.
Country Kickback. And they like set up there. So it's entirely possible for you guys.
It is entirely possible.
I could easily set us up with a remote rig. Don't you worry about that, fellas.
Sure.
Maybe 2026. I'll chat to you guys live from Tamworth in 2026.
Let's and we'll do shout out to Adele for helping us come up with the idea.
That's right. Adele came up with the idea.
Well, they wouldn't want to get us on the red carpet. That'd be hilarious.
Oh, would it? Yeah, it'd
Wouldn't
be
it be great if we could get on the red carpet? We'd make a shout out to the boys.
All the other boys.
Absolutely. So new music coming out after Tamworth?
New music after Tamworth in February, the EP that Wiley Blue and Angel are both on the drop. And so there's another single in that one and just 2 more songs that haven't been heard. And I'm really excited. That's an EP called To Home and Heartbreak. Super excited for that one to be out and to get to share that. And that's kind of why I based the tour around having more music in February.
Yeah, that's good.
Drip feeding singles theory again, Braggy.
Yeah, that's the one.
It tends to be the way, they say.
Yeah, I know. You just got to keep working them. You drop one and you promote it, and then the moment you're so tired from promoting it, you drop another single. Have to start the cycle again.
That was between Wiley and Angel. It felt like I just finished with the interviews from Wiley Blue, and then it was time to get everything ready for Angel. So yeah, I guess it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you. I suppose that's the thing. You've got to stay kind of relevant in a fast-paced world where music is. There's got so much music, and we're spoiled for choice. So you've got to kind of keep that the front.
The stats of how many tracks are released on Spotify daily is kind of distressing.
It is, yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
It's like,
talk about fast-paced. Yeah, the Beatles would put out 2 albums in a year or 3.
That's right.
That's the thing. Like, I look back at older artists and at least an album a year for so many in that era. Like, I guess too, like we're maybe just not used to getting the whole album at once anymore. We're getting a single.
We are. Yeah.
It's coming back. The album's coming back.
I love still getting a whole album from someone, and even not. I try to sometimes not to pay attention to the singles if I know they've got an album coming out, and try and wait. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing to do, but I love that feeling of listening to the album start to finish for the first time.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Well, Adele, I'm going to wind her up, but I really do wish you every success. There's songs that we've certainly listened to since have been really cool. I really love them. If you're looking for an angel, is just and just that whole sort of lyrics there just gets you thinking. And I love Wiley Blue, and I just wish you every success. I hope Tamworth works out for you, and one day you too, when asked the question, "Have you been to Nashville?" you'll be able to say, "Yes, I have." So
I've been to Tamworth, and then I'll say I've been to Nashville. I won't take that shirt off if I make it there.
I bought heaps of shirts when I was there.
Thanks for having me on. It's been really nice chatting to you all, and it's felt like a really relaxed, happy podcast. So I'm very happy.
Oh, that's good.
We'll look forward to the rest of your music that comes out with the EP. So thank you so much, Adele, for coming on. Thanks again to Braggy in Adelaide, Rossi in Sydney. It's been great catching up with you guys. I've sort of missed our Wednesday night catch up. So we've got a couple of weeks of interviews, and then we've got Chrissy. So back to our own. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening to it. Leave a review. It really does help others find us and helps others find new music. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We've got a website, unfilteredundiscovered.com. Adele's music has been added to our fresh and female country playlist on Spotify, as well as our Unfiltered and Undiscovered playlist on Spotify. That's about it, I think. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Take the bus.